Okay, then we're good to go. Welcome everybody to the Staff Training and Apprenticeships webinar. We've got a webinar sprint over your lunchtime today to talk about how you can access government funding to support you with your staff development and staff training. We've got 30 minutes. We've got a short presentation for you to go over the basics, and then there's an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. As I said, I'm Debbie Ryan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Impact Academy, and we deliver a range of training courses, over 1,700 different online training courses and 20 different apprenticeship courses as well. And what we're going to look at today is how you can access these for virtually no money at all, which is fantastic. Firstly, I'd like to introduce you to Todd Ryan, who's the Development Director, and he's going to take us through our presentation today. A little bit of housekeeping first, if everyone can keep on mute, and then where there's no interruptions. And as I say, we'll use the Q&A function at the end to answer all your questions and queries. Feel free to type them in as we go through the presentation, and I'll make a note and make sure we get through to everybody at the end. Todd, welcome. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Debbie. And thanks for everybody for joining in on your lunchtime today. The reason we do these lunchtime sprints is we just find it's a really effective way to spread some positive information. Not many people know that this funding is available to their businesses, and nobody wants to dial into a 2-hour lecture in the evening. So we just do short 20-minute blasts over a lunch period where we can pass out some of the key information. And as Debbie's already suggested, at the end of this, you should know how you can access this funding for your businesses. Because what we find is actually most employers don't realise that they've got access to this kind of funding to support their teams to grow with training, with apprenticeship programs and a whole host of other things. So hopefully you'll leave with a little bit more knowledge. I've got a short presentation that I'm going to share with everybody. And hopefully this is coming through on everybody's screen now.
Looking good, Todd. Fantastic.
Brilliant. Right, thank you very much. So obviously, we're here today to talk about the Staff Training Fund and how your business can access it. So probably worth starting by giving you a little bit of an overview of who we are, telling you a bit about what Impact Academy is. So we were founded in 2012 as an education provider, working with IFATE and the SFA to deliver government-funded training programs. And back in the day when we launched, we were really a specialist in energy management and sustainability training and qualifications. Our official company name is actually Nationwide Energy Trading Services, but our trading as is Impact Academy. And I'll explain the rationale behind our rebrand and our name change. So as I mentioned, when we started out, our bread and butter really was the energy and sustainability training. And we worked with, and still do, work with big corporate companies, the NHS, Royal Mail, British Gas, Octopus Energy, big corporates with essentially large operating costs, big running costs. And we were working with them to educate them on sustainable technologies that they could introduce to their business, ultimately with the objective of bringing their OPEX costs down and reducing those operating costs and helping them to run those businesses more efficiently. We did that for a long time and still do that, and it worked great right up until the pandemic happened. And then that changed the face of training for everybody across the UK. A lot of that energy management training that we were delivering, we would need to get out on site to see some of the premises that the organisations had to do the energy audits, etc. And obviously during the days of lockdown and social distancing, we were unable to do that. And that forced us to have a little bit of a rethink about our business model, and not actually just us, but in fact, the education across the whole of the UK and all the other independent training providers really had to reevaluate how they did things. And as part of that switch, we moved to become an online training provider. And what we found is actually it was sort of accidentally a very welcome change. It meant that employers didn't have to send their staff to our facilities in Warrington anymore, so they didn't need to come down to our auditorium to do our training. They can just dial in remotely from work or from home. And of course, there's huge cost savings in doing so as well, because they're not paying staff expense fees to come and, travel to us, whether it's train or car, etc. So it's just worked quite nicely. So since pandemic, we changed our program. We became an online training provider, and that allowed us to open into a whole host of new sectors and training areas. So we retained all the energy and sustainability stuff that we did. That's still very much the bread and butter of what we do and our core offering. But we also moved into the digital, the housing, and the generic business suite of training programs. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about them in some more detail later on. But our 4 focus areas are energy training, digital training, business training, and housing and property, which is quite a specific type. Firstly, I just wanted to dispel a little bit of a myth, because even now, despite doing this for many years, every time I speak to an employer, they see the word apprenticeship and they assume that this means 16 to 18-year-old straight out of school or college, looking for their first job. And that's what people still believe an apprentice is. The term apprenticeship is a term that's been given by the government. And what that actually means is somebody that's in training and employment at the same time. Now, you might be interested to know, or maybe you do know already, that there is no age limit on apprenticeships. It's not for young people. It's not for people straight out of education. Anybody within your organisation that's employed by your company can do an apprenticeship at any level. And I'll touch on that in a little bit more detail now. So you can see I've listed some of the eligibility criteria here. So importantly, learners must be over the age of 16. Now, there is no upper limit on apprenticeships. Our youngest apprentice with us, we've got about 350 apprentices on program at the minute. Our youngest one is 16, but our oldest one is actually 68 years old. That's a chief operating officer that's doing a business improvement specialist qualification with us. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But importantly, these qualifications and these training packages that we're talking about are available to anyone in your organisation at any age and at any level too. It's not entry-level staff. It can be your senior leadership team. It can be board members even. But the criteria is that they're over the age of 16. They're employed by your company, so they're on PAYE. This doesn't apply to contractors. They do have to be employed by your organisation. They have to spend 50% of their working time in England. And importantly, they need to have a line manager or mentor. And the reason for that is as they progress through their qualification, we as the training provider need to make sure that the training that we're delivering is relevant and providing a service to the business that you belong to. And for that reason, we check in with their manager or their mentor every 10 weeks and just make sure the skills that we're delivering are benefiting the organisation. And hence it's useful and the learners are getting something out of it. Now, you'll see a statement at the bottom there. Currently, we've got 18 apprenticeships on offer, or 18 funded training programs. We start at level 2 and we deliver right up to level 6. So on the national curriculum, if you think back to the school days at high school, that's where level 2 is. So your GCSEs sit at level 2. At the other end of the scale, an honours degree is level 6. And on the way up the ladder, you have level 3 qualifications, which are A-level equivalent. You have level 4 qualifications, which is your sort of higher national certificate, higher national diploma. Level 5 is foundation degree level, and then level 6 is honours degree level as well. And importantly, you can access training at any one of those levels for anybody within your organisation. As I say, it's not just junior members of staff, it can be your senior leadership team, if that chooses to be a benefit to you guys. These are some of the qualifications that we do, and I've just got a very short video clip that I'd like to play you, which one of our digital marketing apprentices produced for us as Impact Academy. And this is just to give you a little bit of flavour of some of the sort of stuff and activities that they would be involved in on the programme. Now, this particular gent is a lad called Jed. He's our marketing assistant. He's been with us for around about 18 months now, doing really, really good. Smashed his apprenticeship. He got a distinction on his apprenticeship, but has turned into a fantastic employee for us as well. And this is one of the short pieces of content that he had to produce on his apprenticeship program as well, which we've then used for marketing. So the reason I put this clip in is so you can see an example of some of this work activities that they produce, but then how can a business use that, whether it's from a marketing perspective or from a sales perspective. It just shows you how they put some of those content into practice. I'm just going to play this short clip for you.
Morning, Todd from Impact Academy. We're an approved training provider in England, and I've asked one of my apprentices, Jed, to tell you a little bit about our 3 most popular courses. Over to you, mate.
Coming in at number 3, Junior Energy Manager. Now this one is all about keeping the costs down. A Junior Energy Manager will assess your business's energy demands and help you to become more sustainable and energy efficient. Next up, we've got Junior Content Producer. Now this one is a lot of fun. It's all about creativity, identifying how you want to come across as a brand on social platforms and creating a lot of campaigns and media to help promote your business. And number 1 on the list, we got digital marketers. The need for digital marketers is growing rapidly. Learn how to successfully promote your business and grow your brand online. Don't miss the boat on this one, it's going quick.
These are just a few of our courses, so drop us a DM to learn more.
So what Jed's done there, he's just picked out 3 of our kind of most popular qualifications, just to give you a very quick snapshot of what them programs entail. But on the table down the left-hand side, you'll be able to see a little bit more supporting information. So you've got the qualification level that I spoke about earlier, the duration, which is how long the training program lasts. And then importantly, you've got the cost of the program and then the government funding that's available for that particular program. And you might be surprised to know that it's actually a staggering 95% that is funded by the government. So if you take the digital marketing program, for example, that training course, that's the one that Jed did, and you saw that short reel that he'd produced as part of one of his tasks and assignments. That's an £11,000 course. It's pitched at level 3. Which is A-level equivalent on the national curriculum. And actually, it's a very valuable course. On completion of that course, learners that successfully qualify can apply for professional membership of the Chartered Institute of Marketers. So all of these qualifications are kind of very relevant to the sectors that these people or your teams would work in. And actually, most of them offer professional membership bodies that they can join afterwards. So what typically you'd find is, and certainly what's happened with Jed in our instance, is Jed joined us as a marketing apprentice, learning the ropes, didn't have any background at all in marketing, completed his qualification, joined the Chartered Institute of Marketers as a professional marketer, and then he's since been promoted to our marketing manager as well. So the whole principle behind these is how can we upskill and develop and train your staff, highlight potential for future career opportunities for them, and then help them to grow into those roles.
Morning.
So importantly, with all of the qualifications that we deliver, there are some entry requirements, and these are set by the ESFA. And for every program that we deliver, learners need to have a basic understanding of maths and English. This is the same with any training program or any government funded training program across the country. And when we say you need level 2 in maths and English, what we mean is that translates to a GCSE grade of C or above if you're on the old scale, like when I did my GCSEs, or if you're on the new modern scale, it's a grade 4 or above. Now, if you don't have these qualifications already, doesn't mean that you can't do any of the courses, but what that does mean is that we would work with your staff and work with your team to gain those qualifications as well, alongside the training program that you'd put them on. So let's assume you put someone forward for a digital marketing course. Maybe they'd passed their maths when they were at school, but they failed their English. We'd do a little bit of English tutoring with them as well, to make sure they had the level of skills and English understanding that they needed to be able to qualify for the marketing apprenticeship. But importantly then, what would happen is, as well as getting their marketing qualification, they would also get that level 2 qualification in English as well. And we just thought it'd be important to highlight, when we're talking about career progression and how we can develop your team members, these are just some examples of some of the stuff that we see. So maybe you've got somebody in your administration team that's an admin officer processing forms or data requirements, etc. Unqualified or low-level qualified, but perhaps has got an ambition to move it forwards into another role, maybe as an office manager or something, an administration manager or something. What we would do in that instance is we'd look at a business administration qualification, a level 3 course, which is equivalent to level 3s on the national curriculum, and it would give them skills to be able to move into that next role with the organisation. Looking a little bit further down the line at the other end of the scale, maybe you've already got some operations managers or production managers, for example, in your organisation that are responsible for teams or operational processes. But maybe they have a desire to progress their careers a little bit further. Maybe they're looking at head of departments, or maybe even becoming a director of a certain function in your organisation. Well, at the other end of the scale, we have our level 6 qualifications, our degree level qualifications. And the one that we're using in this example here is our business improvement leader. And that course is all about how do we teach the kind of strategic goals and objectives, and how do you embed those in your organizational processes to make sure your business is improving, whether that's from an efficiency basis or from an operational performance, lowering downtime, reducing your OPEX, whatever that might be. How do you make your business perform better, and what skills do we need to teach your staff members to allow them to develop into those head of roles or those director roles? So again, coming back to what I said at the very start, these aren't just entry-level qualifications for younger people. These are the whole spectrum from entry-level straight through to degree-level qualifications. And the government, importantly, will fund all of them for you. Little bit about our delivery model. I've touched on some of this at the start of the presentation. As you're already aware, we're an online training provider. So the way that works with us is we would hold our lectures every single month. So sticking with the digital example, let's say you sign somebody up on a digital marketing course with us. Then that course typically runs for 13 months. And what we would do is we would give them their program in advance. So they would know what day on each month for 13 months they needed to attend their lecture. Now, our lectures run for 3 hours or up to 3 hours each. Some of the modules are a little bit meatier. Some of them maybe only take 2 hours long, but they never run for more than 3 hours a lecture. And there's one every month. And what we do is we assign all our learners into small classrooms, and we cap the classrooms at a maximum of about 6 learners per class. And the reason we do this is twofold. Firstly, if you've ever tried to host an online training session with 25, 35 students dialed into it, it just does not work. It's chaos. Whether it's hats walking across the webcams when they're working from home, whether it's people on mute and then not on mute, or background, whatever it is, it just doesn't work well. And by shortening the classroom sizes right down, it allows for us to deliver a better learning experience. So our tutors, because these are tutor-led delivery sessions, it's not pre-recordings, it's a live session with a real tutor. And the tutor then, with the smaller classroom sizes, is able to kind of, for want of a better word, pick on the students whilst they're on the program, make sure they can engage with them, maybe ask the learners to participate in the lecture, look for working examples. When have you put these skills into practice in your day job, for example? And what we find is that by having much smaller classrooms, everybody gets a much more engaged learning experience, and we tend to find it promotes better results as well at the back end of things. Now, as learners progress through their qualification, they'll be required to complete a portfolio of evidence. Now, if anybody's familiar with or has sat MVQs in the past, it works very similar to how the MVQs were structured. So as a learner develops through their training program, they'd be expected to log work activities and tasks in their portfolio. And the job of that portfolio is to satisfy the examining body that the learner has the relevant knowledge, skills, and behaviours for the standard that they've chosen to enrol on. And what our job as a training provider is to make sure that all the work that the learners are putting into their portfolio map across to those knowledge statements and give the examining body the sufficient evidence that the learner knows and understands this course and knows how to put those skills into practice. Now, there's 2 ways that learners can bank hours in their portfolio. So the first thing they can do is we would set them tasks and assignments each month. And importantly, they would be related to what their day job is at their organization. So again, sticking with the marketing example, let's assume your business had a new product that it was trying to launch online. And maybe the task that we would set the learner would be to build an advertising campaign to launch that particular product. Maybe it can be a one step more further and be as specific as saying, well, this product is designed for 20 to 30-year-old males in the northwest of England, and that's how we want to target this particular advertising campaign. And we would set them a task that allows them to do that. So it's the work that you're requiring them to do as part of their day job, and we would help them to structure that task in a way that they were allowed to demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and behaviours that they're required to demonstrate to the examining body. So that's one way, by us setting tasks and assignments. The other way is that learners will be picking up just normal work activities, and every time they do something that relates to their course, they would be allowed to log them in their off the job hours. And the target log for students is to pick up 6 hours per week of work activities. And I just want to re-emphasize that, if I may, because when people think 6 hours a week, they immediately assume that that means 6 hours of self-study or 6 hours of further learning. That's not the case. What we're looking for is 6 hours of activities that they've done on their day job that relate to the standard that we've got them enrolled on and the training course that we've got them enrolled on. And then, of course, our job as the training provider is to make sure that portfolio is in sound evidence and satisfies all the knowledge statements that it needs to before we submit it to the examining body. And that kind of brings us right onto the final part of the training programs and how these are structured. At the end of them, there is, of course, some sort of endpoint assessment. Now, gone are the days where students have to sit long written exams. It's not a case of sitting a 3-hour written paper anymore. There's a number of ways that learners can be assessed at the end of their program. But principally, these are all designed so that the examining body can poke and interrogate and really draw out the knowledge that the learner has picked up during the duration of their training course. So some of them might choose to do a short interview, and they'll ask the learner to talk through their portfolio and then maybe pick up some examples of evidence that they've used in their portfolio. Some of them might do an online multiple choice test. Typically, these are around about 6 hours long, and it's an A, B, C, D multiple choice. Some examining bodies ask the learners to do a short presentation, again, showcasing something that they've done as part of their training program. They might ask them to do a particular project that they've used in their portfolio and to discuss and talk about it. And for some of the courses, they might even do an observation, which is when the examining body would come out to your place of work. And this is usually the case with our energy programs. And typically what they would do is they'd come out to a particular site and the learner would perform what we know as an energy audit. So they'd walk around the site with them, making sure they've looked for all the appropriate parts of machinery, make sure they've checked the kilowatt hour rating for the draw of energy that the plant and machinery is taking at the time, that sort of thing. So the principle is that it's not just a written test at the end of the exam. It can be a combination of these things that I've discussed above.
That's great, Todd. We're coming up and we're running out of time, and we want to get the opportunity for questions in. So if you can submit any questions that you've got through the Q&A button there, but there's a couple of points that I want to pick up on. Firstly, in terms of the funding. So everybody is entitled to funding. Companies are split into two categories, basically. So if you've got a PAYE bill of more than £3 million, you'll pay a levy to government, and that levy sits in a pot for you to spend on all the things we've talked about today. If your business isn't that size and you're under that threshold, well, you get to spend out of that pot too. And it's completely unlimited. You can have every member of staff on a qualification and the government will fund that 95%. However, in some cases, it's not 95%, it's 100%, and it's completely free. So, for example, if you've got learners who are actually under 22, then they are fully funded. It's 100%. If you've got employees who are under 25, there's additional incentives where you don't have to pay national insurance contributions for them either. And if you enroll more than 10 people onto qualifications, then you can access them 1,700 qualification short online courses for the whole of your employees. And then there's cashback incentives too that are on offer from time to time. So talk to us about them, because in some times and at some points you actually get money to put people on the courses as well. Couple of questions coming in now. Just let me go through to them questions. Does it matter where you're located? Well, no, absolutely not. As long as you are in England, then you're eligible. And if people work from home, if they work in England, that's okay as well. Other questions there are, can you do two at once? Well, no, you can do them concurrently. So you can do one, complete one, and then put another one on, but you can have as many people in your organisation on at the same time, so there's no problems there. Other questions we get asked, so the shortest you can actually complete a qualification in is 12 months. So if your course is a 15-month course or your employee's course, if they're feeding through it, as long as they're over the 12-month threshold, then yes, they can. Courses start every single month, So you don't have to wait till September or anything like that. And in fact, there's different incentives. So again, if you enroll people in May and you put more than 10 employees on, you're opened up to then 1,700 courses for your whole MB pool. And that's everything from Excel to PowerPoint, time management, confidence building. There's even a bit of Six Sigma in there and lean project management. They all become free of charge for all of your staff. And that's it on the questions front. Todd, is there any other things that you want to show? Oh, I want to say about the funding. The funding is instant. So once you talk to us, we set you up with a government account. If you pay that levy, then you can start, then the training starts immediately and the funding comes out of that pot. If you're not in the levy, then we reserve the government funding with you and it's instant. So you know straight away all it's funded. If there is anything to pay, it's paid monthly. So there's no problems with that at all. But that's it, basically. It's one of the best kept secrets. And the reasons why it's a best kept secret is this fund was underspent by 4.2 billion in the past 2 years. All of them employers didn't know about it. And if it's underspent, the government get to keep that money. So it's time to use it while you can. Use it or lose it. Any more questions before we finish? We're nearly there. We always promise to keep it right on the nose so you can go off. Oh, we've got a question, another one from Lisa here. So you've been non-levy paying, but next month you're going through to the levy. What happens if there's not enough in the levy pot? Well, great question. You spend your levy, and then as soon as that's gone, you move into the other side. So the government fund it anyway. So you move into that 95%. So you would never be paying more than the 5%. But as I said, in most cases, we can work with you to find out what incentives are there so we can get you to that 3 point as well. So you never have to pay the full amount. The very most anyone would ever have to pay is 5%, but in most cases, it's a lot less than that. Todd, anything else from you before we wrap this session up?
Just the final one from me. We touched on it very briefly there. We're a little bit different to most training providers, colleges, facilities, etc. They tend to have intakes of learners in September and January. As Debbie mentioned before, we do our intakes every single month. So when you've decided that you want to put someone for these programs, the longest they're ever going to have to wait to get started is, potentially up to 4 weeks. But we operate new cohorts of learners every single month. So you never have to wait a long time to get going. As soon as you guys are ready to go and put staff forwards, we'll be ready to get them enrolled and get them started on the training.
Fantastic, Todd. Well, you're right on the nose there. We're just coming up to 12. Oh, hang on, level 5 in housing. Lisa, we don't currently, but we can. We can pick up a conversation for that for you as well. The level 4 covers all the latest legislation for social landlords, but we can talk to you about the level 5 too. That's it in time for today. We'll circulate the presentation to you all with the contact details. We'll also share a link to the enrolment form so you can get people enrolled and take advantage of the incentives that are out there for this month and get access to them 1,700 free courses for the whole of your staff. And all that's left for me to do is to say thanks very much. It's been great talking to you all today. Those of you who were with us live and those that you were following on afterwards, have a great day. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.